There is something quite tantalizing about the idea of taking classic games and bringing them into the modern era. Some call them remasters, others call them remakes, but at their core, they're essentially remodeled houses. Their basic blueprint, infrastructure, and layout is kept intact, but aging parts are replaced and the walls are given a fresh coat of paint. The most recent remake that came out is the critically acclaimed Shadow of the Colossus, led by Bluepoint Games. We aren't just talking about an HD remaster here. The developers essentially remade all of the game's graphical assets from the ground up, and the results are absolutely gorgeous. Now, for those who don't know who Bluepoint Games is, it's a development studio that specializes in HD remasters, HD collections, and HD remakes. Games they have worked on prior to the recent Shadow of the Colossus remake include the God of War HD Collection, Ico and Shadow of Colossus HD Collection, the Metal Gear Solid HD Collection, PlayStation All-Stars, Flowers PS4 and Vita ports, Uncharted the Nathan Drake Collection, and Gravity Rush Remastered. It's a lot of great stuff, and as you can see from the list, with every game, their projects become more and more ambitious. Which is why it was so exciting to hear that Bluepoint is back at it again, having confirmed recently to website Eurogamer that their next game will be another full remake, one even more ambitious than Shadow of the Colossus. When asked by the website whether they recently expanded their art team to tackle an original game, here's how Bluepoint president Marco Thrush responded. "Well, we could, but we're making another remake. This project," referring to the Shadow of the Colossus remake I'm assuming, served us a great point of growing the art team to the point where we can take on a full AAA game major scope of art content. So now our next step is let's improve the art pipeline, let's improve the engine, let's improve workflow for artists, let's grow on the art side some more to handle our next project because it's a bit bigger. And our next focus is, alright, let's work on design and add new stuff to get to the next remake. Because now that can be our sole focus of making sure that where we put the time and everybody else, they are already at a level where we can perform. From there, Bluepoint's technical director Peter Dalton added, quote, "With Shadow of the Colossus, the studio most definitely grew in both number of people and skill level, and so we continue to grow and expand and look at areas of weakness. One area that we have not explored very deeply is, what does our design prowess look like? What is our ability to build something original and to expand it, rather than just upgrading something? And so we look at those things, and we're constantly trying to enhance and strengthen the studio to get to a point where, yeah, doing original development or whatever comes our way, we're fully capable of doing it." With all that in mind, the question then becomes, what is Bluepoint's next remake going to be? Unfortunately, Bluepoint wasn't ready to disclose that quite yet, but we can make some assumptions. One popular theory is that we might be looking at a Metal Gear Solid 1 remake, which is not all that implausible if you think about it. Bluepoint already has experience with the series through Metal Gear Solid HD Collection, so who's to say that they won't shoot for the stars by overhauling the one 3D game in the series that has yet to receive the HD treatment. It's also worth noting that with Shadow of the Colossus, we saw Bluepoint graduate from an HD remaster to a full remake, so who's to say that something similar for Metal Gear Solid is out of the question. Then there's the fact that later this year, on September 3rd, 2018, Metal Gear Solid will be celebrating its 20th anniversary. So what better way to celebrate such a momentous occasion than by releasing a remake of the iconic title 20 years later, or at least announcing one? I would also like to draw your attention to the fact that the last three projects that Bluepoint has worked on, Uncharted the Nathan Drake Collection, Gravity Rush Remastered, and Shadow of the Colossus Remake, have all been PlayStation 4 exclusive titles, so it's not far-fetched to expect that the next remake might also be a PS4 exclusive, which goes in line with the fact that even after all these years, outside of PC, Metal Gear Solid 1 in its original form has remained a PlayStation exclusive. We have never seen the classic game anywhere near Xbox, and though we did see it be remade for GameCube in the form of Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes, it isn't what one might call the most faithful adaptation, and it used none of the assets from the original, hence why the game featured the awful music, cheesy over-the-top cutscenes, even by Metal Gear standards, and re-recorded voice acting, which many argue is inferior to the original. The graphical upgrade was nice and all, but just about everything else felt like a downgrade in some way. I would say that the closest that the original Metal Gear Solid got to a proper, faithful adaptation to modern consoles was via PS1 classics on the PlayStation 3 and Vita, though that's just emulation, not a full-on remaster or remake. So yeah, to this day, barring PC, Metal Gear Solid in its original form has only made its way to PlayStation, and with Bluepoint's next remake potentially being yet another PlayStation 4 exclusive, it's plausible that they're working on a Metal Gear Solid PS4 remake, one that, like the Shadow of the Colossus PS4 remake, mainly overhauls the graphics and tweaks some minor aspects of gameplay to make it feel a bit more modern and intuitive, while retaining the core elements of the original. Keep in mind though that this is all just theories and speculation on my part. All I'm trying to say is that given Bluepoint's past involvement with the Metal Gear series, given their proclivity towards PlayStation 4 remakes, given Metal Gear Solid's attachment to the PlayStation platform, and given the fact that it's almost the 20th anniversary of the seminal game, the stars do seem to be aligning a bit. It's also worth noting that they did say that this remake would be more ambitious than the Shadow of the Colossus remake, and a Metal Gear Solid remake, yeah, that's pretty freaking ambitious, wouldn't you say? There are many other theories out there for what Bluepoint's next remake could be though, with many hoping and believing that it's a remake of the PlayStation 3 exclusive Demon's Souls, which is not an unlikely prospect either, especially with a Dark Souls remaster having been announced recently. But all we can do for now is wait and see what happens. In the meantime, I'd love to hear what you think Bluepoint's next remake will be in the comments below. With that, I would like to end this news update. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoy my content, consider supporting me on Patreon. It's completely optional, but donating even as little as $1 a month will go a long way in helping this channel grow. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Yong Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Yong out!